a white man talking about race in America. His name is Dale Hansen, sportscaster known all over the country, out of Dallas, Texas. This is what he said about racism, especially in the National Football League.
Kaepernick takes a knee during the national anthem in San Francisco last year. We noticed, but very few players joined him. Not many players seem to care. He can't get a job in the NFL now, and very few have said much about that either. But the president says he wants that peaceful protest to stop, says those players should be fired if they take a knee during the anthem, and calls those players a name I never thought I'd live long enough to hear a president say, and now everybody cares. Donald Trump has said he supports a peaceful protest because it's an American's right, but not this protest, and there's the problem. Any protest you don't agree with is a protest that should be stopped. Martin Luther King should have marched across a different bridge. Young black Americans should have gone to a different college and found a different lunch counter. And college kids in the 60s had no right to protest an immoral war. I served in the military during the Vietnam War, and my foot hurt too. But I've served anyway. My best friend in high school was killed in Vietnam, and Carol Meyer will be 18 years old forever, and he did not die so that you could decide who is a patriot and who loves America more. The young black athletes are not disrespecting America or the military by taking a knee during the anthem. They are respecting the best thing about America. It's a dog whistle to the racist among us to say otherwise. They and all of us should protest how black Americans are treated in this country. And if you don't think white privilege is a fact, you don't understand America. The comedian Chris Rock says it best. There's not a white man in America who would trade places with him, and he's rich. It has not gone unnoticed that Trump has spoken out against the Mexicans who want to come to America for a better life, against the Muslims, and now against the black athlete. But he says nothing for days about the white men who marched under a Nazi flag in Charlottesville, except to remind us there were good people there. And when he finally tried to say the right thing, not one of them was called an SOB or should be fired. We have white men in America who wave the Nazi flag and the Confederate flag, and he's concerned about taking a knee because it disrespects this flag. We use that flag to sell mattresses and beer. We wear it as a swimsuit. We wrap our bald heads in a flag bandana and stick it in our pants because we disrespect that flag every day. Maybe we all need to read the Constitution again. There has never been a better use of pen to paper. Our forefathers made freedom of speech the First Amendment. They listed 10, and not one of them says you have to stand during the anthem. And I think those men respected the country they fought for and founded a great deal more than the self-proclaimed patriots who are simply hypocrites because they want to deny the basic freedom of this great country, a country they supposedly value and cherish so much.
Right.
He said a mouthful. And, you know, he's not just any sportscaster in Dallas. He is like the sportscaster in Dallas. And then there's a video following that where he talks about you, Mr. Bell.
Yeah, Gary, once I had seen that video, I decided I had to get in touch with this guy, man, and congratulate him for taking a stand like that in Dallas, of all places. Here's a guy that said that he has had 11 jobs in sports broadcasting, and he's been fired from 8 of them. And each time he moves up the ladder and got a better job. But here I am. If I tell the truth, they blackball me. I can't get a job nowhere. So I emailed him a little background on me and congratulated him. And this was his response. Gary, go ahead and run that video.
All right, let's do that.
Of the Arizona Cardinals hiring Cliff Kingsbury as their new coach. Even my guys Mike and Jonah have been questioning that hire. But Kingsbury fits all the criteria to be a head coach in the NFL. He's an offensive genius, he's young, and he's white. And not necessarily in that order. There have been 6 new coaches hired so far, all white, and 2 coaches of color they are replacing. Stephen Wilkes, fired in Arizona after just 1 year. Vance Joseph in Denver after just 2. But Cowboys coach Jason Garrett is in his 9th year, apparently because he wins so much. A lot of people don't understand how Kingsbury can have a losing record at Texas Tech, no NFL experience, and get one of the 32 NFL jobs. But getting fired at Tech doesn't eliminate him from moving up, at least it doesn't to me. I've had 11 jobs in my life, been fired from 8 of them, and moved up every time. And I am arrogant enough to tell you, I think Channel 8 was right to give me another chance. But I am the product of white privilege in America, and I've never denied that I wasn't either. If they made a poster, my picture should be on it. Getting fired at one place and getting another chance isn't the problem. But young, talented coaches of color not getting the chance, that's a huge problem. The covert racism of the NFL ownership group was so bad, the NFL had to make a rule so that minority coaches could at least get an interview. Cowboys secondary coach Chris Richard has been interviewed, and there are reports saying he might get the Miami job. After what he's done with this Cowboys defense, how could he not? Unless it is true, what black parents have been telling their children for decades now, you have to be twice as good to go half as far. I dream of the day when those parents are wrong, because now
they're not.
This is Bill Hanson in Dallas. I lost your phone number when you called the other day, and I finally had to track through your notes, and I finally found this here.
Join a movement of almost 6 million Americans.
Your stuff is fantastic to read about, and everything you've done is makes what my little bit appealing off the cover of white privilege, as you say, seem rather insignificant. But I thank you for sharing this with me, and hope this message gets to you. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
See, Mr. Bell, in my view, this is what it's going to take. White men like Dale Hansen pulling the covers off and saying what we know to be true.
Yeah, I was saying that in 1972 when I first came on the air in 1972 with Inside Sports. But he was a big man to stand up and say, Harold, what I have done is nothing compared to what you've done. So that meant a lot to me, coming from someone like that who's known all over the country as one of the top sportscasters. And I take my hat off to him. But that is, white privilege continues. Anybody that's denying there's no white privilege, I just wanted them to hear Dale Hansen say that there was a white privilege. One thing I want to move on to, I want to take a look at the 2020 Olympics. It concludes today. This is the last day of the Olympic Games. And there are a lot of you guys, I want to get your take on the Olympics and what does it mean to Black America. Could we run that first video on the Olympic Games, Gary?
Is this the one with Jesse Owens?
Yeah, run that.
All right, let's do it.
Give us a little history, 101, Black history.
Ohio State University.
He changed the world with speed and grace.
The history of Jesse Owens, it's an American history about Americans.
Growing up in the early 60s during the civil rights movement, he was definitely an inspiration. Watching Jesse Owens, the old films were always just, chilling when you watch those victories.
He was the fastest man in the world, but change in his world came too slowly.
He was someone who gained his fame at a time just on the cusp of the transformation of American life from its medieval segregated past to something that has been indisputably better.
The world celebrated him as a great Olympian. Back home, he was unwelcome because of the color of his skin.
Jesse Owens was an enormous presence in an era of very small-minded people.
Today, there is a stadium named for him at the university where he first won acclaim. But his legacy is not the medals that he won, but the spirit he displayed.
He loved what he did so much, and Ohio State was so much a part of that. He loved this university.
the Ohio State University, we've had over 200 athletes participate in the Olympic Games. Jesse Owens was the premier. In other words, he was a standard bearer, and everyone sort of followed in his footsteps.
He was the type of man who really wanted to make an impact.
Jesse Owens, the man who inspired a nation and became a cultural icon.
Okay, fantastic. Sydney, you were bringing us up to date on a little history on the Olympic Games. You were taking us back to the 1800s. Well, what were you saying?
Well, my reference was to the beginning of the Olympic Games in Greece in 1896. And I just wanted to just reflect upon the games being created and developed. It was a religious opportunity for them to do religious gatherings. That was one of the symbols as they paid respect to the goddess Zeus. And it was 500 years prior in 776 BC when these games come together, and all of the folk within Greece would come, and it would be an opportunity for them to do what we generally see doing now, but it was different then. But the tone was set with the spirit of the Olympics to bring those challenges together for the review of the folks who gathered there, but for religious purposes. So right now you see, in 36, it became more prominent with Jesse Owens because of Hitler was the man in power in Germany, and he didn't respect Owens, and Owens took the spirit that, God had blessed and given to him, and he made things happen for the interests of black folks all over the world. And then, Althea Gibson, and then Wilma Rudolph, and so on and so on. But the Olympic Games itself now is being viewed and looked upon, as those athletes challenge one another. But Simone Biles took the position, to kind of cultivate, participating in the games is one thing, but her mental health was another thing. And she took that position, to outline what it actually demonstrated in being a participant in the Olympic Games. I'm not going to let the games ruin my health or my mind. I'm going to take a position, and she took that position, and is to be honored forever for her own sanity and mental health, her condition. And she went on to get another medal after that. But the history of the games as it relates to how they were formed, how the idea came about, was in the 1800s, and it was in Rome, and they were honoring Zeus, and they would bring like gladiators in the ring, and they would do battle and do challenge. But we've always been able to endure the circumstances that we put under, going back to not only Jesse Owens, but the other brother, Jesse, what was his name? The boxer. Who?
Joe Louis? I'm
Joe
talking about
Louis.
Jack Johnson.
Jack Johnson, I'm sorry. Jack Johnson was another icon who demonstrated the power, the God-gifted power to, just beat them crackers in the ground when they put him up. Jim Jeffries and all of them different ones. But he stood on what God had given him to demonstrate to the world, that we were more than the circumstances that we were facing. So that's critical. But there still was inequity as they moved along and captured those things. Even Joe Louis, the Brown Bomber, the contest with him and Max Malin, and he knocked Maximilian. Maximilian beat him, and he came back, and he didn't declare that he was a champ personally until he beat Maximilian, knocked him out in the first round of 1 minute and 38 seconds. Then he felt better about, being the world champ. But Maximilian beat him, and he came back, Madison Square Garden, broke Maximilian's ribs, and claimed that for the world. And people began to, that was the leadership, taking the initiative to lead and demonstrate and be who we are. We could see who we were through him and in him. And so to God be the glory for our position in the Olympics. As we have participated, we've always been conquerors.
Right. Well, one thing, the Olympics have become political since Jesse Owens and Jack Johnson. It's political now. That's what's happening. This is probably one of the worst Olympics that we've had, because it's unheard of for the United States track and field team of these black men. Nobody walked away with a gold medal. That is unheard of. And of course, the women, the black women were fantastic.
Sure.
I mean, the black women also won. Yeah, won the basketball. The black men won the gold in basketball. But it took the women's volleyball team to win a gold to edge China in total gold medals. So yeah, so we're falling off a little. It's still political. They're still trying to hold black feet to the fire about demonstrating, kneeling, all the rest of things. So I can't say there's been a whole lot of progress, but there has been some progress. Somebody else can pick it up from there. Come on.
Well, I don't know about the rest of you, but I'll admit, I haven't been following the Olympics this year like I have in the past. I don't know if it's because of COVID and they don't have crowds, or what I have going on in my life. I mean, it's on every night and I look at it, but I just haven't been, something about this Olympics just hasn't drawn me in. And I think I read somewhere where the ratings are down. And I know a lot of that has to do with the pandemic, but just in my personal interests, I just haven't been watching it. I don't know about the rest of you.
Okay. Anybody else? Come on in.
I'd like to know, you referenced that none of the black men won any medals. Like, I haven't been watching it either. I just been picking up every now and then. Was it because they did demonstrate in some way, or was it that they were prepared? Something happened, they're being prepared to meet the opportunity. What happened?
Chris, why don't you pick it up from there, Chris, what you seen as a young man?
I mean, I just see as global competition is kind of catching up in a lot of ways in regards. I mean, there was an argument made for the basketball team because they struggled in the preliminaries, but then ultimately we have way more talent still. Like, if we send our best, there's still no way the rest of the world will catch up to us. But at the same time, there has been some progress. They are catching up. They're not sitting idly by to let us just dominate every Olympics. They're coming and bringing their best, and they're trying to edge us out. And there is still political games. There's things like the Simone Biles situation where Black women have had their mental health called into question and their patriotism by a bunch of right-wing lunatics and things like that. So there's still a ton of politics at play. There's still a lot of that. But at the same time, it's still just some legit competition that's going on. There's still a lot of terrible rules and double standards. There was a controversy about the rule for marijuana after the Sha'Carri Richardson situation, and then they had an ad glorifying these white athletes using CBD as a healing and a training compound, which seems like a little bit of a double standard since it's coming from the same plant. It's almost like a crack cocaine, powder cocaine type of situation where the one that white people use is acceptable, but the one that minorities are more likely to use is unacceptable, even though they come from the exact same plant. They're pretty much the same thing. So it's one of those.
Sorry, doesn't it seem though that since we know that as Blacks we have to do twice as much to achieve 1/2 as much, that things like, especially when it comes to substances like drugs, they're gonna look for for any drop, a spot of cocaine, a spot of any kind of substance that they can claim that the athlete was using. And like you said, the other guy can use CBD and, you know, you bathe in it, it wouldn't matter. And that's from hemp and whatnot. I would almost think that the coaches or the athletes themselves will say, look, okay, we're going in knowing they're going to have it out for us. Okay, let's not do anything to engender any kind of criticism of what we do, because it's then and only then can they raise the roof about the injustice. If their record is clear, if there's no, you know, pinching hairs or anything, we're not going to win. The white man has the power.
Yeah, but
case, you know,
I
if
feel
they
that
can
also.
run faster.
I understand, but I feel like that also puts our athletes at a handicap to be able to put to that standard, going back to the Simone Biles situation and even Naomi Osaka situation and things like that, to have those standards and have to adhere to those extreme, nearly impossible standards while also being upholding the excellence of being the best in the world at what you do is taking a toll on these athletes' mental health. They're still human beings. They're still regular people.
But somebody's winning. So what do the other people do? If they're running under the same rules and regulations, I'm just trying to understand. If they're running under the same requirements, what are the other people doing, the other countries doing to win and we're not, if our people are ultimately faster?
So they're going to continue to do what they do. I think at some point we have to boycott the whole sports industry.
That's right. That's right. Charles,
If we boycott the sports industry, then we get better treatment and better contracts, be treated better. But if we continue to metastasize the destruction that the institutions have placed before us, they become barriers and boundaries and walls that we can't break through. The deal is to stop. You know, you can work out in the structure here. You don't have to participate in an Olympic type situation. We can set, just like John, what was his name? Carlos and John Smith.
Tommy Smith, yeah.
Yeah, I'm saying in the midst of the '68 Olympics, and I remember that because Esther Stroy ran in the Olympics. She came out of Spingarn, and I was in then, and we supported her. But the deal is to take a position. We have to take the position. We have to take it because it's not going to be voluntarily given. And so the industry, the sports industry itself, capitalize off of all of the talent and resourcefulness of black people. So we got to take a stand. We ain't participating.
Charles,
things. Go ahead, excuse me.
Go ahead, Charles, come on in.
I like, you know, I'm making this observation. We looked at Jesse Owens. Jesse Owens vilified because of racism in this country.
Right.
He wasn't acknowledged. His accomplishment wasn't acknowledged because of the racism in this country. Then we look at Simone Biles. She was vilified because she wasn't patriotic enough. You know, she's supposed to sacrifice her mental health, her mental well-being, to say, "Oh, I'm jacked up in the head. I know it's gonna create damage, but because this country, racist country, want me to compete in this for them. If I don't do that, they vilify me and go back to what CJ said and question a person's mental health. And this is showing the hypocrisy of this whole industry, as Cynthia made the observation. My concern is this here, is that that most athletes, their livelihood is connected to this institution. So whether you boycott, whatever, your livelihood is connected to this institution. Your livelihood is connected to baseball. Your livelihood is connected to football. Your livelihood, this is what you play on the playground for. I play on the playground, I hit the home run, I play sandlot ball to one day be playing in the major leagues. Now, I get in the major leagues, and because of racism, I'm not allowed to advance, but this institution of racism is across the board. I say, okay, I'm taking a knee. Don't nobody take a knee with me, now I'm vilified. Okay, now I'm out of the league. Everybody else still in the league. Everybody else still in the league. The same person that take his uniform off, getting his $1.5 million car, go down the street, police pull him over, blow his brains out. Oh, I'm my bag. Oh, you're an athlete? No. So my concern is that, you know, I think we need to start being more focused on understanding this institution and the power that we have in terms of who we are in it, and try to see how we can craft out a narrative where we can be more effective in terms of representing ourselves in that institution. Boycotts are answered, so be it, but my concern is that we need to become more focused on understanding this institution.
I have a question to ask CJ.
Hold on, baby. Let me bring in a new person to the group.
Okay.
A dear friend of mine. We go way back to the Black Athlete magazine. She was a writer. She's now a PR person. She's represented many professional athletes. I'm talking about Miss Arlena Richardson. How you doing, Arlena? Can you hear me, Arlena?
Hello, everyone.
How are you doing?
Arlena, can you hear me?
Doing awesome. I'm here with some wise, intelligent, fierce people. I love it.
That's great. Well, we want to welcome you aboard. I saw you had joined us. I didn't want to go too deep in the program without introducing you to everyone, because she's a very knowledgeable person when it comes to sports. And like I say, she's still out there, been out there for years, representing the Black athlete, you know, also supporting us in all phases of the game, especially me in media. She's been an inspiration to me over the years. So I wanted to welcome Arlena to the group.
Yes, but Harold, I wanted to address Charles. Charles, that point that you made, that we really need to become more informed and knowledgeable about the entire sports industry. After years of being a service provider, never an athlete, strictly business, I chose specifically to go back to earn my doctorate in sports management so that I could be a part of what you were talking about, really being able to dig into that sports industry and figure out what it is that we can do to work that system more in our favor. So I just wanted to tell you, I'm right there with you, brother.
All right.
Thank you for that. And because I don't want to take too long with it, because I believe that when we had that kind of insight, and when athletes do their contracts, they have a certain mindset. When athletes, so the power might start right there. Oh, I know I'm going to sign a massive contract with this potential Super Bowl team, but because of your history, in terms of not hiring, I'm not going to take this contract. I'm going to go to a lesser competitive team, or make that known. Whereas I start having that power. I'm just concerned that the more educated we become about that industry, the more power we have. They say information is power.
Dr. Fisher, I don't want you to lose that point. You had a point you wanted to make with Chris?
Yeah, I understood everything else that was said, but I still have a question. For instance, the young lady that who, I don't know if the medal was taken from her because she smoked marijuana. I think she had her mother or somebody died or something. She had a mental issue. Okay. The other guy said he used the rub-on ointment. My question is, if the results were based on a lab test, if there was marijuana in her test, whether it's urine, whatever, did the other stuff show up? The ointment that was used by the white athlete, did any chemical value show up in his test or not? Because my point is this: when I said we need to become smarter, if you're going to use something, then the young lady should have been using what the white guy used instead of using something that could be traced. That's my point. We're going to have to play the game smarter. You make sure you stay, if you know that these things exist, then have a strategic plan to get around them. I mean, it takes more, but that's the game, and we have to admit that. We got a long ways to go before we can be treated equally. So my point simply is, don't do anything that is retraceable to you breaking the laws of place, the rule in the game. If the white guy used a rub-on that could not be detected or was not considered a narcotic, then don't you use anything that could be traced in your system as a narcotic.
Michael Jackson, come on in, Michael.
Yeah, I agree with what the doctor just said, and also what Charles said. The unfairness that goes on in sport, it goes on society, period. And like the Reverend just said, you have to make sure you don't do something to identify yourself where folk can throw rules at you and disqualify you. It's the same thing about getting arrested. And you do something, you're criminal, and then you say, well, this white person did it and did nothing happen to them. But if you know you're being watched more than a white person, then you got to be extra careful, because you're not going to get out the situation saying, well, somebody else did the same thing I did 2 weeks ago, but yeah, I broke the law. And so I feel bad for that young lady that used marijuana, but maybe she should have drowned her sorrow with some alcohol or something that's not banned. You just gotta stay from it. I mean, she could have drunk some wine or whiskey or something, but you know, you done trained all these years. And last year we didn't have the Olympics. You done trained 4 or 5 years, and then to lose it all because you smoke marijuana, that's just tough and just wasn't smart. But if you, and really, if somebody was smoking marijuana with her, they should have stopped her before she did.
That's right.
Bias guy that died from the cocaine issue, who his friends should have stopped him and said, look, you just signed a big contract with the Celtics. Don't take part in this. You know, we gotta help each other in the community.
Let me add something to that.
Hold on, sit down. I'm gonna bring Jacques in, then you come back. Jacques, come on in, Jacques. Can't hear you, Jacques. Still can't hear you.
He's muted.
Take yourself off mute, Jacques.
Well, while he's on mute, can I make a point real quick?
Yeah, then come back to Sydney. Go ahead, real quick.
Yeah, because I don't think anyone is disputing the
My
results.
bad. All right, hold on, John.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's disputing the results or whether it was an intelligent thing to do. I think those are different arguments. Like, obviously, the rules are the rules, and you know the rules ahead of time. So she, you know, took responsibility and admitted. The issue is revisiting whether those rules make sense, or if the rules don't make sense, should we just keep them forever and not adjust them or address them? Because as we stated before, it's you know, having twice as many eyes on you and having to work twice as hard and having to avoid twice as many things. That is exactly what Naomi Osaka was alluding to with her not wanting to deal with the press and not wanting to do this. And that's putting the extra strain on these athletes. So yes, you're still going to get athletes, but this is going to be a perpetual issue of mental health in athletes when they're asked to be upheld to these standards that are above and beyond their peers. As for like the marijuana use as well, and the CBD use, the difference between them, there is no performance enhancing value between the two that would be any different. So if anything, they should be in the same classification. Her wanted to drink her sorrows away instead is a much less healthy way to deal with that than something that you can't overdose on and that is, you know, deemed medicine in half the states in the country already. So it's not whether she was right or wrong. We know that she was wrong, but you know, from where the rules are set up, the way they are now. But the question is, should we revisit those rules to make them more equitable and fair, or should we just leave the system broken forever?
Oh, Sydney, come on, 1 minute, then come to Jacques. Come on, Sydney.
All right, I'm unmuted.
Go ahead,
finally.
Jacques. Go ahead, Jacques.
Go ahead, Jacques.
All right, yeah, I'm in the car. I'm at a picnic. I had to come outside here, man. I mean, at a wedding reception that's outdoors, actually. So I ain't got but a few minutes. I kind of missed most of the discussion, but I would just say that I concur wholeheartedly with what CJ was just saying, that there's antiquated rules that definitely need to be changed, be revisited. And I don't know if we can really blame it on racism. There's probably a little bit of that in there too. I don't think that we can take away from that factor. because racism just plays a factor in everything, it seems like, in this world today. And not it seems like, it is. So let me rephrase that and be concise. So I just hope that it does change, that it is revisited and that those rules are changed, because these athletes, they work very hard, and I think that they deserve to be seen on the world stage. With that said, I'm going to go back to mute.
All right, thank you. Okay, Sydney, and Gary, go to Carlos and Tommy Smith after Sydney. Come on in, Sydney.
Hey, you know, this institution of racism, whether it be individual, covert, overt, this institution of racism is perpetuated by, as CJ was saying, listen, if you have persons who are negotiating in your interests as your agents, and they are facilitating your undermining by not making you aware of certain things that will knock you out the box. And we can witness how the industry operates, because you have these agents that are not protecting the wholeness of the athlete, and it's a misrepresentation at that level, in my opinion, because she in fact should have been cared for by the agent, and those opportunities that would have undermined her should have been explained. She shouldn't have been vulnerable like that, or no other athlete, because the agents are trying to get them a bone to secure the athlete, and it's a misrepresentation at that level, because they're not having a conversation to protect the interests of the athlete.
That's right. Okay, Gary, let's hit that video with Tommy Smith and John Carlos.
16th, 1968, Tommy Smith had just won the 200-meter race with a world record time. Fellow American John Carlos finished third. It was a historic day that was just getting started. For a little context here, the games were taking place only months after the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and the Vietnam War protests were picking up. Both Smith and Carlos wanted to use their platform to shine a spotlight on civil rights issues. Smith and Carlos went to the podium shoeless, wearing black socks to represent black poverty, wore beads to protest lynchings, and as the Star-Spangled Banner played, each raised a black-gloved fist to show support for black people and oppressed people around the world.
It wasn't a black power statement. The statement was a humanitarian statement. I wanted to express that we know people are hurting in the world because we're hurting in the world.
The reaction was swift and ugly. The pair were booed when the anthem ended, and the IOC president sent them home saying they breached the fundamental principles of the Olympic spirit. Back home, the pair faced abuse, even death threats, and their athletic careers were essentially over. Smith is now a public speaker, Carlos a retired track coach. Now in their mid-70s, both remain committed to raising awareness to human rights issues and helping others break barriers.
I just want to remind folks, you know, we go back to 1936 with, of course, Jesse Owens. I want you to think about that, how Jesse was treated when he got back home by white folks. You know, he had to earn a living by running against a racehorse, all kinds of different things. He was, I mean, they just came down on him hard, and it ended up his own people coming down on him very hard. But he was really a hero. Now, that was 1936. 32 years later, here come Tommy Smith and John Carlos. They made a statement that was heard around the world. And they went through the same thing. They went through death threats. They lost out. They couldn't get jobs, you know? And here we are in 2021, facing that same type of racism that Jesse Owens faced, that Tommy Smith and John Carlos faced. Now, I want you to remember just what I said. I want to go to now to a guy to say how much he loves America, and he was in the 1968 Olympics, and he won a gold medal. Gary, hit that video, and he's my man, but this is what he had to say about that.
U.S. and Sweden take a knee. That was how we started the Olympics in Japan. Britain, Chile did the same thing. And they're not the first athletes who want to criticize America while wearing our flag on their jersey. Remember in 1968, Tommie Smith, John Carlos famously chose to make a statement and protest while on the podium. But as they were busy condemning our nation, our next guest was at the same Olympics, winning a gold medal as a heavyweight while proudly displaying the American flag and showing pride in this country. You know him, George Foreman. He decided to shave his head, but he's still just as lethal, always with a great smile. Two-time heavyweight champ of the world, Olympic gold medalist George Foreman. So in 1968, George, I was only 4, but I know we were coming apart. There was a lot of people were upset about Vietnam and racial unrest, but you carried that flag around the ring. Why were you, who grew up in adverse circumstances, ready to sing the praises of the red, white, and blue?
Because I've loved America all along. I've always loved America. And once you fall in love, just like falling in love with your wife, no one can say anything about her. The next night, she's my wife and I'm gonna stay. That's why you make that thing, until death do we part. And that's why nothing has ever shook my faith and love in the country. And when you love a country, nothing can bother you. If you are halfway in love, you're going to have a lot of trouble.
So a lot of people looking at this country, and everyone's seeing race and ethnic background and gender in everything. When you were in 1968, we see the video. There were black and white bathrooms and water fountains and African Americans back of the bus. There was a reason for that racial unrest. Why did it not bother you to the point where you turned your back on America?
I'll never turn my back on America, because I grew up where people in this country, a guy by the name of Doc Broders, and who taught me how to box, never gave up on me. A lady in Grants Pass, Oregon, her name was Miss Moon. She just loved me, gave me an extra bit of food on my plate, told me to be careful with my temper. I could do great things. And these people haunt me every night. And what do I say about them? They were Americans. They've passed on now, but I love them. That's America to me.
So you know
Lyndon Johnson.
Right.
Wow, Lyndon Johnson.
Thank you.
Okay. The best friend I ever had. Jim.
Okay. that's a lot to absorb right there. Those 3 videos. And of course, we ended up with George Foreman, who I've known since he won the gold medal in the Olympics. I met him here in Washington, D.C. in 1969. I want you guys to comment on what you think from 1936 to 1968 to George Foreman in 2021. Don't take you. We want to give everybody at least a minute or two to say something on this.
Yeah.
Okay, who wants to start out?
I'll start. To me, both were the same. When those guys put their arms up, to me, it was saying, I love my country, but I'm going to fight for justice. To me, it wasn't saying that they hate America or they were turning their back. They worked hard to get there. And to me, it was saying, I love America. And I think we need to change the perspective. That's the problem. I'm with Foreman. I love this country. I hate the racism. But I wouldn't stay anyplace else. I loved my country.
Okay. Michael Jackson, Attorney Michael Jackson, come on in, Mike.
Well,
your observation.
Not everybody's an activist or a protester, and like Dr. Fisher just said, people that protest love their country too. That's supposed to be what our country stands for, our ability to be able to speak out about something we disagree with without worrying about getting thrown in jail. But you also had somebody like George Foreman who loves his country too. That's just not his personality to be protested. Just like he was a lot different than Ali. They both were great boxers, but they had 2 different personalities, and they both loved their country. And so I just think we shouldn't criticize somebody if they're activists. We shouldn't criticize somebody if they're not an activist, because we all have different personalities. But having said all that, the whole point of the country is that you should be able to speak out. As long as you ain't causing violence, you should be able to speak out about what you disagree with. That's the whole, that's the Declaration of Independence, all this other stuff, the Constitution, Declaration of Independence. And if it means anything, then you should be able to speak out without being afraid. And that part of the problem is when folks run around that's afraid. You know, they see shadows that ain't there. They just afraid. So anyway, that my.
Hey, Harold.
Yeah, come on, Sidney, for a minute. Come on, Sidney.
I just want to talk about, you know, George Foreman loving the country, but the mistreatment. See, he loves the country, but he didn't say anything about how he had been mistreated or others are mistreated of his culture. It's the mistreatment of how we see this demonizing one culture to take the advantage of all of their gifts and abilities to uphold the country that mistreats them. The power of forgiveness is the instrument by which we continue to keep it moving. But mistreatment in this country represents the destruction of us as a people, and we can't tolerate that. And we must take what is being dished out and flip it, because if our kids are continuing to be exposed to killing one another with guns, and these guns are made available, conveniently available in communities where people are not, then we must do something about that. But George Foreman didn't talk about the mistreatment that he had received. He talked about loving the country. And people can love the country and deal with the mistreatment as it relates to their family stability, their family income. They don't concentrate on that aspect of things. Mistreatment is ultimately designed in the core of racism, institutionally, individually, and we have to deal with that.
Okay. Arlena, come on back in, Arlena. Arlena, come on back in. Are you on mute?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, good. Come on in.
Oh, I'm just listening, and I'm also taking notes. Excuse me. I'm also taking notes, and I wanted to make a point. This is in retrospect as I take my notes. I'm listening to everybody, and like Harold said, I've spent the past 35 years working one-on-one with athletes from the prism of sports. For example, as a little girl, I watched Tommy and John. I'm 61, so that can give you, a benchmark. And I never thought in a million years that I would be able to actually cross paths with them. And I've had an opportunity to speak with John, and Mel Pender is my client. And what I wanted to say, though, about the sports industry, I ran into a problem with the first course that I took for my doctorate degree. And I wanted to write a paper about how it was sports psychology. And I wanted to write a paper about how sports psychologists could be more effective with players if they took into consideration their culture. Because sports, from what I've learned, what's been my experience is there's a duplicity, or let's say there's a heresy, I think you could say, whereas they want the players to think that, okay, everybody's equal. You wear the same uniform, like this, everything is equal mentality. But based on the various things that I've heard here and my experiences, that's not the reality. And it causes a lot of friction, conflict, discrimination, inequality, unfairness, because on the one hand, they are preaching that in sports, everything is equal when we know that it's not. And then I had to settle for a B on my paper, despite having all A's in that course, because the professor did not agree with me, even though I could cite studies that by taking culture into consideration and looking at players as individuals, that they themselves would be better performers. Let me give you an example, how they reacted to the whole end zone dancing. Okay, for us, we like to put a signature on. Okay, they frowned upon that. So I just wanted, to share with you guys that that's a source of frustration with me that I found in my studies, is that they say that, oh, everything is equal, but then based on everything that we're talking about, it's not. And then the hypocrisy of it is, if you sit in your car after a pro football practice, or you talk to a group of athletes beyond the field, they segregate. Yeah, when they're doing their charitable work, their basketball games, this and that, there may be a few Anglos who will support them, but the reality of sports is manifested as they're walking off the field, where they go, who they go with, and who they support beyond their sport is the reality. And so I think that the sports industry, before we or anybody else can make a difference, is to have them own up to that hypocrisy and address it, because I think that's the only way that we're going to be able to make headway. So that's my contribution.
Okay, Gary, and then come down to Charles. Go ahead, Gary, come on.
Oh, it's not an either or situation in terms of whether or not you love the country. You can love the country and still criticize it. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what we should do. Some athletes, their lesson is the same lesson as white people. And they kind of feel like it is all or nothing. Well, I have to love the country. And loving the country means I can't criticize it. I get criticized for saying that I see everything through a racial prism. That doesn't make me a racist just because I see it through a racial prism, at least in my view. But George has done very well for himself, and people evolve. Sometimes who you are in 1968 is not who you are in 2020, 2021. So I give people credit for evolving, but then some people don't evolve. But I don't think that it's an either or, it's an and. You can love the country and you should criticize it.
Okay, Charles.
First, well, no, go ahead, Sidney. It seems like you got something you really want to get off your chest. Go ahead.
I wanted to deal with this, with Harold's agenda around the $28 million that was spent defending racist cops.
Oh yes, oh yeah. Well, that's Sidney. I'm glad you brought that up, because
not to cut you off. I just
that's all right.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think that's something we dealt with last week, wasn't it, Gary?
We did a little bit, but we can all, I don't know if we got CJ involved with his last comment. CJ, do you have anything to talk about with this? Loving the country and George Foreman?
Olympics, we'll close that out.
Yeah, on the Foreman clip, just a couple of quick things. Like, one, I agree with my dad that, I think I would argue that the people that criticize the country are more patriotic and the ones that dissent, because you care enough to protest to try to improve the country rather than just take it at face value and accept the flaws in it. So I think it is the most patriotic thing to do, is to try to improve your country, especially if it's an unpopular opinion and it's going to bring heat on you. And, Kaepernick, you might lose your job or you might have consequences. Then you must really love your country if you're willing to risk that to try to make a difference and improve it. And my second point is, this is, I have nothing against what George Foreman said in his clip, but this is how effective Fox News is at being cancerous to the minds of older white people, because it frames it right after the clip of what they show as, oh, these are bad athletes who hate America, the dissent. Then they frame George Foreman, oh, this is what a good black person does. He loves America no matter what. And all of his examples are anecdotal examples. Like, there was a lady one time I met who was nice to me. There was a trainer who was nice. Those aren't systematic issues. Yes, there are people that are nice to you, and maybe America was good to you, and that's great. There's no, like I said, I got no beef with anything he said. But to go on Fox News and that frame it the way that they frame it, you're giving ammunition to the racists, to the bigots, to the people that are not on your side, because you're being a useful idiot, as they say. Not to say that he's an idiot, but you're being a tool for Fox News to frame other athletes as being bad and unpatriotic because they don't agree exactly with how you protest, or because you're not a controversial person or America was good to you. So that he's being used to basically smear any other athletes that do criticize the country, even whether he was aware of that or not. But that's how effective Fox News is at their propaganda.
Mm-hmm. And I want to thank Sydney for bringing us, because we are running out of time. I'm glad Sydney brought that piece up about what's happening in Prince George's County. And I think one of the things that he was really trying to reinforce of what our county executive, last week we said she spent $28 million defending racist, brutal cops in Prince George's County, which has been one of the most brutal police departments in the country. I mean, they've been in the top 10. So when you come in saying, you got to spend $20 million because a cop shot and killed a handcuffed Black man in a squad car. You got to spend $20 million, man. Just think about that, $20 million, when that could be going to the school system, that could be going to so many other things, and then it wasn't $28 million defending them. It's really, she just lost another suit in the courts of defending the racist police department in court. She had to spend $6 million for that. Then she had to pay $2.58 million to the Black and Hispanic cops that won the case. So we're losing this kind of we're just throwing money away when we shouldn't. And then she came out just yesterday, and I know her dad is one of my guys. I know it's hard for me to not say something about this, because people are coming asking me, what about Angela Alston-Brooks and this? And what she's doing, she's really embarrassing the parents, because they came out. Her father came out of Langston Terrace. Those of you know what Langston Terrace is. He came out of that. She didn't come out of that. She come out with a silver spoon in her mouth because her father and mother were able to give her those kind of things. So she don't really understand what's going on in our community. Evidently, she's not listening to her parents. We got some kids who don't listen to her parents, no matter what. They go do their own thing. So a lot of people are asking questions about her leadership in the county. You can't say that I want nothing to do. I have nothing to do. I have no responsibility to the school board, even though they are screwing up everything in the system. You can't say you are the leader. You are the leader in the county. You can't say that's not my responsibility. You took on the responsibility of a police department, a racist police department, but now you don't want to take on a dysfunctional school board that is affecting our kids from one end of the spectrum to the other. So I know, I appreciate, I know that Sydney wanted to get in there, and Charles last week, and we kind of got by that. Gary, you want to kind of pick up from there?
Well,
take a minute, because we don't have much.
Okay, you made a great point. Her title is county executive. And I think the school board is a part of that. So to say that you can't take responsibility for that, I don't know her, but I do know you and her dad are friends. Does she have children? Does she have kids in the school system?
She has a child. Yeah, she has a child. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll just leave it at that then. I just say county executive. I'd like to see what her key job elements read, because I would think that as a county executive, the school board would fall under that.
Right. Let's go over to Sydney and come on down. Sydney, take a minute, Sydney.
Well, the dental mobile. They have a dental mobile that's in storage for children, and the dental mobile is supposed to be being used for the dental health of kids throughout the 27 municipalities in Prince George County. But if the dental health mobile is in storage somewhere, that says that those services are not being met. So what do we do about it? It's her responsibility to make it happen. To make it happen for the taxpayers, to make it happen for those people that have an opportunity to vote, for those people who are in need of services. And so the responsibility lays at her door, in her lap, and in her head for not being able to address those issues, those needs, those of reentry, people coming back in the community. I mean, there are a host of issues that folk are not really paying attention to, and it's her responsibility because it's on her watch.
That's right.
County executive again.
Okay, let's come to Chris. Chris, come on, Chris. You'll come on over to Dr. Fisher next.
Well, like I said, I'm down here in Florida, so I haven't seen all of the local goings on back in PG County. But I mean, I would agree with my dad that, or just in a basic philosophical sense, that you have to invest in the right things. It's all about budget and allocation, and what are your priorities. Your budget and things like that are going to reflect your priorities, and not what you say and not what you campaign on, but where do you actually put the money and your resources. And that's going to, where that goes is going to be key to your community. Is it going to go into the schools? Is it going to go, what is the budget? What is she in charge of? And what, how does it get allocated? I mean, that's the only question I would ask, and follow the money.
Okay, Dr. Fisher, hold it 1 second. Gary, run that videotape of County Executive Alsop Brooks talking about she doesn't have the responsibility of the school board.
I don't even weigh 210 pounds. You've lost me. That's insane.
The truth is that Hollywood.
My responsibility. That quote coming directly from Prince George's County Executive Angela Alsop Brooks when we asked her today what is next for the county school board. Well, this comes after she blasted the board earlier this week for the ongoing turmoil and that drama in the school district. Fox 5's Aisha Khan joining us live now from Upper Marlboro. And Aisha, I know that you followed up and spoke with the county executive about this. A lot to unpack here.
Hey there, Andy. Yeah, certainly a lot to unpack here because there's so much going on. But we did want to ask her, well, what is she doing to fix what she says is a board that is unprofessional and acting out of conduct? And she said, right now, you know what, this is not my responsibility because I have no control over the board. Now, as you know, earlier this week, Alsop Brooks, she released a scathing statement on Monday night when she blasted the school board's elected members amid what she says is turmoil that's been going on for what she says is decades. This comes just less than a week after an ethics panel recommended that 6 of the board members be removed following an investigation into multiple instances of alleged unethical conduct. This also comes at a time where the school district is grappling with restoring in-person learning for students as the Delta variant surges in the D.C. region. Today, though, I asked Alsop Brooks, is it fair to say that she is indeed waiving all responsibility of how the board is currently conducting itself?
So I'm glad you're asking this question. I don't have responsibility for the school board. These are elected individuals, and the public has responsibility for the school board. Let's be honest about it. The public is not confused about that. This was here before the current CEO and current chair.
Well, Aisha, the county exec.
Okay, Dr. Foster, come on in. Judy, come on in.
Like that. We as citizens don't get involved enough. If they're elected by the public, she can't just put them out. The public has to raise enough hell to get them out of there, if it's that bad. And I don't have children in school, and I tell you, I don't follow the educational sphere as much as I do the police sphere. So I agree with her. We have to get busy. We can talk about it. We can sit and point out these things, but unless we get fired up, mad, and ready to do something, positive, march, yell, scream, write letters or something, show up at the meetings. How many of us showed up at a Board of Education meeting? I don't even know where they're holding.
Dr. Foster, Judy, let me ask you this. She came in as county executive. We had problems with the police department for decades. She didn't. We had to call her out on that. So why don't we call her out on our kids who are our most important, to us? We call her out on the police department. You don't skip over one thing and let her get away with something else. You are the county executive. You are over the county. And you're over the school system. People look for you for leadership. So that's why we cannot forget that. Yeah, we got to raise hell, but you heard Dr. Sepper say last week that we can't keep calling people out. Now, what are we going to do? Just sit back and allow our kids to suffer because we don't want to speak out? I don't think.
Will we be going to the next educational board meeting? Why don't we go there in mass and stand up and scream and yell?
You know what, Dr. Fisher, I've done all of that. Okay, I've done all of that. And we need to get out and do more. All we want to do, like, you know, we sit back in our little cocoons and watch things go by, and then when they come, there we are. Let's go to Michael. Michael, let's get out of here with you. We'll come down to your house.
I'm going back to the police. We had a situation in Huntsville that just happened recently where the city of Huntsville, Alabama paid for this officer who was on trial for murder. He got convicted of murder. He shot somebody and killed somebody and got convicted of that. They kept him on duty, paid duty for weeks, maybe months. He's finally resigned, but he was a convicted murderer, and he was a police officer getting paid.
No.
So a lot of stuff goes on all over the country.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. I don't have a clue to what happened to that black police officer who shot William Green in the car with handcuffs on. We haven't heard anything else about him. He may be still on duty or walking around getting his benefits and everything else after he committed murder. We don't have any follow-up on that, exactly where this officer is. Come on in, Charles. You got a minute, man. We've run out of time.
Now, I just want to say that the school board came in existence because of Thornton. They had to file a civil suit to get black people on the board. She in there because of the Voting Rights Act. That's how black people got empowered. So she sit up here saying that what she don't have, she gotta recognize the reason why she in the position she in right now is because people sacrifice their lives to get her in a position so that she can make a decision. Then she need to make a decision. The police department been that way, like you said before. Mm-hmm. But you want to defend them now. But you ain't gonna turn around and say, well, oh, this been going on forever. Why? I don't have nothing to do with it. Yeah, you got something to do with it. You the county exec. If you don't have nothing to do with it, then you don't have nothing to do with nothing that goes on in the county.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Arlena, you got 1 minute, baby. We got to get out of here. Go ahead, Arlena. Can you hear me, Arlena?
I think she said she had to go to a meeting.
Okay, yeah.
No, that's okay. I just want to thank everybody. I learned, and as I listened, and I feel empowered and energized as I leave this meeting. I just want to say thank you to everybody for contributing to my growth.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Be safe, Doc.
Is Jacques gone?
Jacques is gone.
Okay, I just want to say this, man. You know, here we are in 2021. And they keep talking about an even playing field. And there's never going to be an even playing field as long as a black man makes half the salary of a white man. Do you understand what I'm saying? There can never be an even playing field. So when we look at what's going on around us, as soon as we start getting close, trying to look like that we may make some progress, they come in and change the rules. And that one of those rules I know affects the whole black community, black America. They made the white woman a minority. How is she gonna be a minority and she sleep with the man every night? So it's nobody's playing fair. The only people playing fair are us. And we're losing ground steadily. So that's something I want you to think about, man. You know, now, I don't know. I don't have all the answers. I done tried to be out there as much as I could in my 50 odd years, but now somebody else got to pick up the baton, man. Somebody's got to pick up the baton. Now, Michael Jackson is now what? Michael is the first black president of the District Attorneys Association in Alabama. He should be checking on his brothers in other states and cities and say, man, we got to come and bring this thing together. Leadership, those in leadership have got to come and bring it together. What Charles and Sydney are trying to do with the John H. Lewis chapter, that's another phase of our leadership that we got to support one way or another. Hey, man, I want to thank all of you. I want to thank Arlena. I want to thank Charles. Of course, thanks CJ for coming back, and Dr. Foster, and of course, Michael, always, and Sydney, and our facilitator, of course, Garrett Johnson. Hey, man, things will get better. We got to call people out. And people don't even find out about some of this stuff until we send out the link. The truth. They don't even find out. They don't even not aware of what's going on. So I'm saying, man, we're in this together, and we got to point a finger, man. Point a finger. Just don't let it come back and point at you. That's the key. Hey, as I always say, every black face you see is not your brother, and every white face is not your enemy. And remember, you cannot soar with eagles if you're hanging out with chickens. I'm Harold Bell. Until next time, you can color me gone.
Okay.
All right, everybody, be safe.
Peace.
Be safe.
Bye.
Bye.
Hi, I'm Harold Bell. My wife Hattie and I found the nonprofit organization in 1968, shortly after the riots that almost destroyed my hometown, Washington, D.C. The program caters to the needs of at-risk children as it relates to social services such as education, law enforcement, drug abuse, gang-related violence, and other antisocial behaviors.